even more classic maps now, once again in post-commentary. This time I've gone back to Audacity, because I've got no idea what the hell Free HiQ Recorder does with my files. But whatever, I'm going to stick with Audacity again. I originally went with HiQ to begin with because I apparently needed some friggin' drivers, but I downloaded Audacity anyway, and it turns out I actually didn't need those. So I have no idea how this is going to work, nor do I have any idea how I took some damage from that acid when I quite clearly did not step in it. I don't know, it was very stupid. So this is just another boss fight. It's the last level of episode 1. A lot of you will already know what the hell we're dealing with here. Aside from these two pinkies, which are absolutely easy to get rid of, because I actually found while I was recording this that a plasma gun does a real number against these enemies. I can't use it here because I don't have the plasma gun, obviously. That's a thing for the second episode, but in the next level, you'll find that I do use the plasma gun a lot to get rid of these guys, because it doesn't take that much ammo to just stun them when you're hitting them from behind. So you'll find that out in much greater force in the next level, which it actually was kind of tricky, but again, because I was recording in post-commentary and I could just focus exclusively on the game itself without having to come up with any kind of witty commentary, I was able to get through it on my first try. This is actually a full, just plain first attempt at recording, and I was able to get both of the levels done. So I was quite happy with that. It's definitely going to happen for the next segment, because the next segment's actually going to be 2 reasonably longish levels. So, and for a long segment, it would actually make sense for it to be the last of the classic map segments if it was a long one. So I believe this is the... Now, the thing with Doom 1 is that it has Barons of Hell, but it doesn't have Hell Knights. Those didn't come in until Doom 2, but you'll find in the next level that these Barons of Hell are actually only in this level, and anywhere else that there would be Barons of Hell are replaced with Hell Knights. I think they just wanted to make the Barons here because it makes for a fitting boss fight to end the episode in, and so this is the only level that you'll actually find them in, unless you find them in Pandemonium, which I kind of doubt it. Yeah, I kind of just spoiled that last level there, didn't I? It doesn't matter, you'll be seeing it tomorrow after I record Argent Dinner. So that's about it for Phobos Anomaly. It was never a long level to begin with. You should already know that by now. House of Pain, on the other hand, is a... Yeah, it does take a while to get through. It's very much the majority of this segment, and it has the same music as well, so if you got sick and tired of hearing that music in Phobos Anomaly, no favors are being done for you today. So yeah, as you can quite clearly see, the plasma gun does an absolute number on the pinkies, so I keep that in mind and end up spamming it a lot throughout this level. Now, these little enclosed off areas, I thought cacodemons spawned in there, but for some reason they just didn't in this run. I've got absolutely no idea. That teleporter as well is useless, and you'll actually find this out when I take the effort to go back to see what's behind the teleporter, only to find that it actually is quite useless. So I'll have to apologize in advance for my useless backtracking. I probably could have just cut it out, but who honestly gives a shit? So it just takes you into that little closed off area which you saw. It was like a little space you could look into there. There's another room. That's where the teleporter takes you. This Berserk pack does get some use, thankfully. I managed to get a pinky kill in here just before the time runs out, because I get rid of him, knock him over, and then right before it runs out I get rid of the pinky there. So not quite as useful as excuse me, not quite as useful as I would like for it to be, but it still gets rid of the pinky, so I'm not going to complain too much about that. One of 2 invulnerability power-ups in this level. The other one is actually a bit weirder, as you'll see later on. But there's a weird mechanic with this as well. It still thinks that the platform is lowered before I hit the switch, and so it goes down that far. I think it's like a glitch of some variety. I'm not entirely sure, but I just sort of skip over that pinky because I kind of thought there might have been a bunch of enemies here. The fact that I rushed into this made me think, okay, well, I'm pretty much screwed now. I'm not going to live this. Surprisingly, I do, because I actually do have a whole bunch of room, and I'm pretty much aware of my situation, actually. The plasma gun, of course, always helps because it can do shit like that. So it gets rid of these two pinkies quickly, except this one was an arse. It staggered, and then right when I got near it, it just sort of came out of stagger within like half a second. I don't know if that's some kind of glitch with it as well, but it was slightly annoying, which did some damage to me. This is probably I guess, the most suspenseful part of the level for when I was playing through it, because I thought I was pretty much screwed when I turned around every corner, especially when I found those 4 lost souls, and then the Hell Knight coming in from behind. So there you go. It should be a Baron of Hell, and I do quite remember it being a Baron of Hell, but for some reason they wanted the Baron of Hell here to be a boss of some variety, and so they just used the weaker version to replace it with. Yeah, that lost soul was an asshole. They can turn corners like that now, I realize, and it's fucking stupid. But I'm not quite done here yet. I think at some point, I think I'm about to go back to that teleporter and find out what's going on. Only to then just come up here and then have that open. Which turns out to be a blessing in disguise, because once I get rid of this pinky, because I don't have any... Once again, using mods. Trying to use mods at least. Once I get rid of this pinky, I've got no chain gun ammo, nor do I have any plasma gun ammo, so I bust out my chainsaw here and get a nice helping of ammo for everything, including my rocket launcher, which I kind of forgot existed for a fleeting moment. I'm not entirely sure why, but another pinky comes in from that room that I just sort of skipped it in. It just decided it was bored of playing with the imps, and so it wanted to take a chunk out of me, I guess, but unfortunately, I have plasma gun ammo now, so you were never going to win that battle. I think I left an imp or 2 behind there as well. But yeah, this is where I backtracked to that teleporter, as I mentioned earlier. Stupid idea, yes, but even stupider that I didn't actually kill the imp there, but a charged up pistol blast means his head wasn't attached, and so he ended up losing it. You just have to bloody keep that in mind. And smash it off like 90 minutes later, or something along those lines. Whatever. Yeah, here it is. This is stupid. Once again, I feel the need to apologize for this, because I also needed health as well. That was one of the other reasons I came back, because I thought there might have been some kind of health pickup, and there was. I just didn't quite memorize it to that extent. And then I lose 17 points of it because that blood, or whatever the hell, is like riddled with 26 different STDs or some shit. And I take damage from it. Either that, or it's just heated up like to ridiculous levels. I'm not entirely sure what the hell blood does when you heat it up, but there you go. Now done with that, I can go into the blue key door, which is pretty much the second half of this level, really. Because the first half was that, and here we have the second half. And this is where the bulk of the action takes place. It's very much faster, this section, although it's still going to take me about 8 minutes, because that's how long the segment's got left. But biggest thing we've had to deal with has been a few pinkies, as well as a Hell Knight. Here we have our first Kakaneben of the level, and this thing is absolutely easy, because you just sit it there, it can't move, and you're just pumping Plasma Blast into it. That's about all you need to say about that. Now, there's a pinky in here, because I can quite clearly hear it. I would have this muted, but I'd like to listen to the thing. I don't know, whatever. So, pinky has been cleaned out. I thought there might have been another possessed soldier in here. Turns out all the possessed soldiers are actually in this room. I count about maybe 9 or 10 of them. So I decided to drop a fuck that and just go with the rocket launcher here. The only issue though is that they will continue to fire even when the door is closed. And when that enemy gets right up in your face, he just sort of smacks you with a melee attack. And with enough of those charged blasts thrown at me, it would have been a pretty unfair way to die, but I'd have died nonetheless, so there wouldn't have been much I could do about it other than restart the level and hope I don't get fucked over by that again. Thankfully I did not get fucked over by that, because I just maintained as much cover as I could, and then as soon as I had the confidence to go into this room like I just did here. As my fucking screensaver comes up. Stupid bloody thing. That happens. And then down here, I have the BFG, which I believe this is the... This actually might be the only level that you use the BFG in, actually. Because you don't have the BFG in either the Doom 2 levels. The BFG only appears in the 3rd episode of the first game. I think this might be the only use of the BFG. And there's no ammo for it either, because it doesn't share ammo with the plasma gun. Unlike in the original game, so... Here I just kind of did that. I was hoping to God that the BFG blew those other 3 imps in this room to pieces. Thankfully that was the case. I was half tempted to use another BFG blast on this, but considering I only had 2 left, it was well justified for me to just not use it. Even though I was getting myself hit maybe once or twice more often than I would have liked, so there kind of was a bit of risk of me dying there, but whatever. Distance is a nice thing to have, especially when you can just... It gives you kind of an unfair advantage if you can just maintain your distance from an enemy that does nothing but melee damage. It's really unfortunate for them. But yeah, for some reason this has got 2 doors, and then... I can't remember quite how this worked, but yeah, there was a pinky there. In retrospect, probably shouldn't have used the BFG blast there, in all honesty. It was just a pinky, and all I had to do was get it out in the open and then just pump some plasma ammo into it. I do still have 2 rounds on the chainsaw, so I could have easily gotten rid of one of these imps if I was running short on ammo, so... That's another thing I could have easily fixed up on. This room is actually quite interesting. I'm not entirely sure just how much detail I went into with it in my Brutal Doom LP, but the pillars up the front have like these switches, and you have to hit a bunch of them to open up these pathways, and one of them's got a yellow key, one of them's got a yellow key door which gets you into the red key, and then there's one that has a red key door and that lets you progress onwards, so kind of have to just work out what buttons do what. Thankfully though, there's no punishment for hitting the wrong buttons, so you can just hit them all without really worrying too much. I think the only sort of punishment you get out of this is if you hit a certain button, you'll open up this door, and behind this is a pinky. And I think there's another one on the other side, so... Not that it matters for me, I mean, I've got a fresh round of ammo, so... Getting rid of these things is not that difficult. Yeah, and there's the other invulnerability power-up, which is... Yeah. It's got the sprite, but it's also got the in-game, like, main in-game pickup thing. It's glitched, that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Whatever. It is what it is. So, once again, I've had to bloody record this because I am lazy as shit, and so I still don't actually have the last level of this game recorded yet, so... When we actually do get to the end of the level, it will still only look like I've only got the 1 level left, to those who may be smart enough to identify that the last level's still not there. But I kind of don't have a choice but to finish the rest of the recordings at least by tomorrow, because for obvious reasons, being the last classic map having to be unlocked through the last level of the game, so... I guess now is as good a time as any to debate about the LP I'm going to do next. For the longest time, I've actually been considering doing Quake 1. Partially because of it being a 20-year-old game, but because... The ironic thing about it is because my live commentary has always been kind of shit, I thought I'd try doing a LP that's just exclusively post-commentary. The thing, though, is that Quake 1 is just not that type of game. I really want to do live commentary with that game because the thing that I like about it, the thing that makes me like it more than Quake 2 is because of how unique my experience is with it. With most FPS games that I play, it's basically just a matter of running around and shooting shit up, and for the most part, Quake is very much like that, as I use my last BFG blast and still not actually kill this thing because the blast itself hit the Hell Knight. The thing with Quake, especially in the 4th episode, is just how freaked out I get against certain enemies like the Fiends and the Spawns and shit like that. I really want to be able to capture that when I do my LP of that game, so if I ever do that, it's going to be It's going to be live. It will probably be my next LP. I know I've been doing a lot of FPS games and I want to try to deviate from that a bit, but look, we'll have to see what happens. I'd like to get Quake done this year, so better to do it now than to just, you know, have to dogpile it into the bloody start of next year or whatever the hell. So there you go. Those are the last enemies of the level as well. So at this point, I'm just sort of cautiously wondering if there are any more enemies. Thankfully, there is not. This is the pathway that takes you to the exit. Thankfully, there's nothing there. I do bust out the rocket launcher here, just in case there is like a pinky in there that might want to have a crack at me, because I don't have much room to maneuver in this little area, so as you can see. But thankfully, that's not the case. We are done with this level, and so there's just the 2 levels left. There's the command control that I unlocked in Vegas Central Processing, and then there's Pandemonium, which I spoiled a little bit earlier, and that's in Argentina. So there's your next level. That's going to be uploaded on Friday along with the last one, and then we'll be doing Argentina over the weekend, so I will see you for that.